Man, let me tell you something I used to think. I had the whole picture figured out, like I done seen enough, heard enough, lived enough that nothing could surprise me anymore. But one day somebody walked up to me real calm and said, "Steve, you know, Jesus is a major part of Islam too, right?" And I looked at him like he had just told me the sun rises in the West, because I said, "Hold on now, what? You mean Jesus is in Islam? What you talking about?" Because, see, I grew up in a world where everything about Jesus came from. Church on Sundays, gospel choirs, singing their hearts out, preachers telling stories about miracles, walking on water, feeding crowds, healing blind men, lifting people with his touch. And every time somebody said the name Jesus, it was in that exact picture, that exact place, that exact understanding. So when somebody told me Muslims talk about Jesus too, man, I was not expecting anything big. I figured maybe they say something respectful, maybe mention him in a line or two, but that would be it. Nothing major, nothing deep. But then I learned the truth. And boy, let me tell you, it shook me in a quiet, heavy way, because I had absolutely no idea how deep the respect ran. I had no idea. Muslims got so much love for Jesus that they even talk about him returning near the end of time. Not kind of, maybe not possibly, maybe not we think so, but straight up he is coming back, and they say it with confidence, not whispers. And when they told me, they talking about the same Jesus born to Mary, performing miracles, chosen, blessed, pure, I had to sit myself down like an old man who just heard something that rearranges the room around him, because this right here opened a whole new chapter I did not know existed. And I kept thinking, how in the world nobody told me this sooner? Because we out here thinking Muslims do not know Jesus, Muslims do not believe in Jesus, Muslims do not talk about Jesus. Meanwhile, they talk about him more than a whole lot of folks I know, and they call him Isa, and when they describe him, it is with so much honor that you feel it, like he is one of the mightiest messengers ever sent by God. And I sat there thinking to myself, hold up, this story sounds real familiar. How come nobody ever mentioned this overlap, this connection, this bridge that was sitting between whole communities, and nobody bothered to talk about it? And then they dropped this one on me, something that made me lean even further. Muslims believe Jesus is alive right now, not gone, not buried, not lost, but raised up, protected, preserved, waiting for his return. And that part hit me right in the center, because I grew up hearing Jesus coming back my whole life. Every sermon, every teacher, every movie, every conversation about the end. And what shocked me was realizing Islam teaches the same thing, not sort of, not kind of, but fully and clearly. And when I heard that, I thought, man, this right here is a conversation the world has been needing, because people love to argue, scream, divide, and create lines between themselves. And here is this massive shared belief nobody talks about. And the more I listened, the deeper it got, because Islam does not talk about the return of Jesus like some mystery. They talk about it like an event, with details, with purpose, with clarity, like it is set in the calendar of the future. And they say he will return with a mission, not a new book, not a new religion, but to finish what was left, fix what was twisted, and bring truth where confusion has spread. And man, I thought to myself, if there is one thing this world needs right now, it is somebody to straighten things out, because everything seems upside down, wrong looking. Right looking, wrong, chaos everywhere. People losing hope. And then they started talking about the signs leading up to his return. Signs that sounded just like the world we living in now. Confusion, corruption, lies everywhere. And I thought to myself, if confusion is a sign, we halfway there already. And what moved me deeper than anything else is that they said when Jesus returns, he is not coming back for a group, not for one religion, not for a label, not for a tribe, but for truth, justice, humanity. And I said to myself, now that right there is powerful. That right there is beautiful, because in a world obsessed with dividing people, labeling people, separating people, here is a belief saying, when the man returns, he returns for everybody. He returns to bring clarity for everyone and unity for everyone. And that shook something in me, because if more people knew this, half the hate, half the arguments, half the misunderstandings would disappear just like that, gone. Poof, like mist in sunlight. And the more I learned, the more I realized this is not a side note in Islam. This is major, central, foundational. And I said to myself, man, I got to talk about this. I have to, because this is too big to stay a secret. So I sat down like a man who knows he has been missing entire chapters, and I started digging deeper and digging deeper, and everything I found blew my mind even more. Because Islam does not just say Jesus returns, they say he returns with a battle, ahead of confrontation, with the greatest deceiver ever, the Dajjal, the ultimate fraud, the final con man, the one who comes when the world is upside down and turns it even worse, and Muslims believe Jesus is the only one who will face him, who will take him down, who will end the greatest deception mankind ever sees. And I thought, man, if anybody is qualified to step back into a broken world and say enough, it would be Jesus. And they describe his return in detail, not hidden, not secret, but clear, visible, powerful, descending, with angels recognized immediately by the people, and they describe him physically too in a way that makes you feel like you can see him walking down the street, detailed, real, certain. And I thought, man, that kind of description comes from belief, not imagination, that comes from certainty, not guessing. And the humility they talk about, oh man, that part really touched me. They say when Jesus returns, he will not ask people to worship him. He will not claim a throne. He will not brag or demand. He comes back as a servant of God, humble, gentle, just, fair. And I thought to myself, man, if that kind of humility existed in people, today this world would be a different place. And then I learned he will unite believers, not divide them. He will bring people together across lines, culture, history, confusion, and differences. And I said, man, if that is not the message this world needs right now, I do not know what is, because everything around us is division, noise, chaos, and separation. And then Islam says when he returns, all that disappears. Unity replaces division, clarity replaces confusion, truth replaces lies, and justice replaces corruption. And when they said he will establish real peace, not temporary peace, not political peace, but true peace that lasts, I sat back and thought, man, that is the ending humanity needs. And they even say that after everything, after miracles, after confrontation, after victory, after peace, Jesus lives like a regular man, marries, has a family, grows old, and passes away naturally. And that part humbled me deeply, because it shows no matter how miraculous, no matter how chosen, no matter how powerful, every soul returns to God in simplicity, and that right there is beautiful wisdom wrapped in humanity. And I kept thinking, if more people knew this side of Islam, maybe the world would not be fighting so much. Maybe people would talk more, listen more, understand more, because this story, this belief connects billions of people across the world, and most of us never even heard it. And that is when I realized we are not as far apart as we think, not even close. Man, by the time I reached the second half of this journey, it felt like I was watching a season finale of a show I did not even know I loved, because everything I was reading and learning about the return of Jesus in Islam kept getting deeper. Not deep like confusing deep, but deep like you feel it in your heart, deep like you gotta sit still for a moment just to process it, deep like truth sneaking up on you and tapping you on the shoulder and telling you, listen, real close. And I sat there thinking, this is not just religion, this is a whole blueprint, a whole message about hope, unity, clarity, and justice. And that hit me, because the world right now is drowning in noise, drowning in confusion, drowning in lies, and people walking around not knowing what to believe, who to trust, or what truth even looks like anymore. And Islam says before Jesus returns, faith will be tested, real tests, not small ones, not missing prayers, not skipping church, but tests where the truth itself becomes blurry, where people chase illusions, chase fake saviors, follow anyone loud enough. And I said, man, I have seen some folks like that already. And that is when it hit me. The return of Jesus in Islam is not just some dramatic event in the future. It is a message about what happens when the world loses its compass, when people drift, when everything gets foggy and dark, and then Jesus comes back to set everything straight with clarity, like sunlight breaking through a storm. And I understood why they say he is the only one who can do it, the only one who can fix what has been twisted. And then I learned about this powerful moment when Jesus finally meets the believers, people who still hold on to truth in their hearts. Muslims, Christians, people who did not let the world change their spirit. And the way Islam describes his presence, man, it hits you different. They say he descends with calm, peace, beauty, like the kind of peace that makes your chest loosen, like confusion melts off your shoulders just by being near him. And I thought that kind of presence is rare, because most people walk into a room and bring noise, drama, stress, heaviness. But Jesus, they say, brings clarity, brings peace, brings truth, and you cannot fake something like that. That is divine, and what truly broke me in the most beautiful way is the idea that after everything, after miracles, after returning, after confronting the deceiver, after guiding humanity, after establishing peace, after uniting people, he eventually passes away a natural death. And I sat there quiet, thinking about that deeply, because that is one of the most humbling truths you can hear. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how miraculous your life was, no matter what you accomplish, you live, you guide, you serve, and then you return to God just like every soul. And that, right there, is beautiful, because it makes the story not just divine, but human, relatable, grounding, full of wisdom. And I kept thinking, if people only knew this side of Islam, the respect, the honor, the love for Jesus, the shared beliefs, the deep connections, maybe the world would stop arguing so much. Maybe people would listen more. Maybe they would see each other differently. Maybe they would realize they have been standing closer than they ever thought. And after everything I learned, everything I listened to, everything I discovered, I walked away with one thing sitting heavy in my heart, and that was hope. Real hope, not cheap hope, not shallow hope, not the kind you see on posters or hear in motivational speeches, but real hope that whispers to your heart that God never leaves the world to fall apart, that justice is coming, that truth is coming, that clarity is coming, even when the world looks like it is shaking itself loose, even when everything seems upside down. And what hit me deep was how Islam paints Jesus as a unifier, a healer, a restorer, someone who does not come back to divide people further, but to straighten the whole world out, to bring unity where division grew, to bring light where darkness spread. And I said to myself, man, if that is not the most powerful message humanity needs right now, then nothing is. Because at the end of the day, when you strip away labels, arguments, division, noise, you realize something unbelievable. Billions of people across this planet, across cultures, languages, histories, believe the same man is returning, and that tells you something huge. It tells you humanity was never meant to end in darkness, never meant to fall apart without hope, never meant to drown in confusion. And when I think about that, return, the justice, the peace, the unity, the truth finally standing tall after so long, I feel this comfort inside, like God already wrote the ending, and it is good, it is fair, it is just. And that thought stays with you. It holds you steady. It reminds you that no matter how loud or chaotic or messy the world gets, the story is not over, not even close. And when Jesus returns the way Islam describes, it is the moment everything finally makes sense. And that right there is the hope, that right there is the message, that right there is the light waiting at the end of the long road.